When the USS Arden went silent at 300 feet below the surface, no one understood why. But inside that steel coffin, one man already knew. They weren't dealing with an accident. They were dealing with a betrayal. The ocean has a way of swallowing sound. Above the surface, waves crash, gulls scream, engines roar. But 300 feet beneath the Pacific, everything changes. There is no wind, no birds, no light. Only pressure, ancient and crushing, sitting over you like a god waiting for your lungs to fail. That was the world chief engineer Marcus Hale found himself trapped in. The USS Arden, a Virginia-class attack submarine, had been cruising through its routine patrol for 12 days straight. Nothing unusual. Nothing dangerous. A standard route they'd traveled dozens of times. Until it wasn't. Marcus first felt it before he heard it. A deep, vibrating thud rolled through the steel hull like a distant heartbeat. He had been in the engine room, sleeves rolled to his elbows, grease smudged across one forearm, running diagnostics on the coolant flow. He froze. Not because of the sound, submarines made weird noises all the time, but because of what didn't follow. The soft hum of the reactor disappeared. The lights flickered once, twice, then went black. Instant silence. Instant darkness. Instant fear. Marcus's breath stuck in his throat. The heart of the submarine, the nuclear core, had shut down. Not slowed. Not malfunctioned. It had died. The emergency lights snapped on, dim and ghostly red. Someone yelled in the corridor. A wrench clattered to the floor. Boots thundered overhead. But Marcus didn't move. He had been in the Navy for 14 years and had never, not once, seen a total reactor blackout. This wasn't an accident. Before he even walked out of the engine room, Marcus already knew. Someone did this. Captain Reese Dalton appeared moments later, tall, broad-shouldered, and tense, his commanding presence filling the corridor. Hale? Report. Marcus swallowed. Reactors offline, sir. Full shutdown. Dalton's jaw clenched. That shouldn't be possible. I know. The backup. Offline too. The captain's eyes narrowed. Backup systems failing. Primary core shutting down. Power loss across every deck. It didn't add up. Unless... Dalton lowered his voice. Is this sabotage? Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have to. A submarine isn't just a ship. It's a sealed world, a pressurized lung of steel. Every life aboard depends on precision, discipline, and trust. Break one. And all three collapse. Dalton breathed out sharply. Bridge, crew control, engineering, full lockdown. No one moves without my order. Alarms blared through the hull. Red lights pulsed. A metallic groan echoed as the USS Arden began to sink. 1 foot. 2 feet. 5. Ballast control is unresponsive, someone shouted. The submarine kept falling, not fast but steady. Like a stone deciding whether it wanted the seafloor or the surface. Marcus grabbed a railing to steady himself. The pressure increased. His ears popped. If they sank too far, the hull would collapse like an empty soda can. Captain Dalton barked, Marcus, what's our depth limit? 600 feet before catastrophic implosion. How long until we hit that? Marcus checked the depth readings. 20 minutes. Dalton didn't blink. Then fix our reactor in 19. Engineering was chaos. Men shouting, tools slamming across metal decks, steam hissing from cracked pipes. Marcus sprinted past them all, heading straight to the core controls. The reactor bay door was sealed. Locked from the inside. A chill ran down his spine. Someone was in there. Someone had locked themselves inside the most dangerous room on the ship during a total blackout. Dalton arrived behind him, breath tight. Who's inside? Marcus checked the entry log. One name flickered. Lieutenant Brandon Cole, reactor technician. Dalton cursed. Cole? That doesn't make sense. He's solid. Unshakable. Marcus said nothing because he knew something the captain didn't. Cole wasn't unshakable. Cole was broken. The USS Arden wasn't Marcus's first submarine. Before this, he had served aboard the USS Rayburn. So had Lieutenant Brandon Cole. The Rayburn had suffered a catastrophic coolant leak during a silent patrol near the Aleutians. Marcus had been on duty. He detected the leak early. Cole was supposed to hit the emergency purge. But he froze. For 12 seconds. 12 seconds in a submarine is a lifetime. A nuclear reactor doesn't forgive hesitation. 4 sailors died. 10 were hospitalized. Marcus dragged 2 out himself. Cole locked himself in his bunk for 3 days afterward. Official reports called it accidental equipment failure. Unofficially, everyone knew. Cole blamed himself. Marcus remembered the last conversation they'd had. Cole's hands shaking. His voice breaking. I shouldn't be here. They'll bury me underwater before they ever trust me again. Marcus had tried to talk him down. To convince him to stay. Now Marcus wondered if that was a mistake. Dalton stepped beside Marcus. Get that door open. I can override it, Marcus said, but if Cole armed the core, we don't have a choice. Dalton gestured to the hall. Do it. Marcus interfaced with the control panel. His palms were slick with sweat. The red emergency lights strobed across the steel corridor, painting everything in pulsing blood-red shadows. 5 seconds. 10. 15. The lock disengaged with a heavy clunk. Marcus exhaled. He pulled the door open. The first thing he saw was smoke trailing across the floor. The second thing was Cole. Sitting on the metal grate, back against the reactor casing, staring at nothing. Eyes red. Face pale. Uniform soaked with sweat. And on the floor beside him, a cut power conduit. Dalton's hand went to his sidearm. Marcus whispered, Brandon, what did you do? Cole looked up slowly like he had aged 10 years since breakfast. I fixed it, he whispered. What do you mean? Dalton demanded. I stopped the chain. I stopped the noise. I stopped everything. Marcus knelt next to him. Brandon, we're sinking. Cole blinked like a child hearing thunder for the first time. Sinking? You cut the coolant flow, Marcus said. You forced a full shutdown. Cole's voice was distant. I thought, maybe if the reactor was quiet, no one would die this time. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Cole hadn't sabotaged them out of malice. He'd sabotaged them out of guilt. And now 134 people were paying the price. Dalton stepped closer. Can he undo it? Marcus swallowed. He can't. But I can. Marcus shoved a toolbox aside and dove into the maze of pipes beneath the core. Every inch of metal was warm, still holding heat from the reactor's final moments before dying. He reconnected severed lines, bypassed damage, rerouted coolant, and restored grounding pathways. His hands shook. His breath came sharp. Sweat dripped from his chin onto the steel floor. Every second mattered. Dalton stood guard at the door. Cole sat motionless against the wall. Voices filtered in from the corridor, panicked sailors shouting depth reports. 350 feet. Ballast still offline. We're taking on water in aft storage. A groaning crack rippled through the hull. Dalton shouted, Hail. The ship's trying to break itself open. Marcus gritted his teeth. I know. The last wire sparked against his fingertips, burning him. He didn't stop. Reactor reboot in 30 seconds, he yelled. Dalton moved to Cole. Brandon. If you know anything else about what you damaged, now is the time. Cole shook his head weakly. I just wanted it quiet. Marcus crawled from under the core, breath ragged. A deep hum vibrated beneath the floor. Lights flickered from red, to white, to red again. Then, oomph. The reactor roared back to life. Emergency systems whirred. Air compressors engaged. Pumps blasted. Electricity surged through the ship like adrenaline. On the overhead speaker. Warning, depth rising. 300 feet. 280. 250, we're ascending. The whole submarine shuddered from strain, but they were climbing. Dalton exhaled. Marcus slumped against the floor, chest heaving. They weren't safe yet. But they weren't dead. Not today. 20 minutes later, the USS Arden leveled at 150 feet. The crew was shaken. Exhausted. But alive. Dalton ordered Cole escorted to the infirmary. He didn't fight. Marcus followed behind quietly. As they passed the mess hall, sailors stared. Some glared. Some avoided eye contact. Cole's steps shuffled weakly. Marcus finally spoke. You could have killed everyone. Cole didn't look up. I know. What were you thinking? Cole stopped walking. The escorting sailors paused. Cole turned slowly to Marcus and Marcus saw it, the same brokenness from years ago. I was thinking. Cole's voice cracked. That maybe if the ship went quiet, the ghosts would finally shut up. Marcus's chest tightened. No one on a submarine talked about ghosts. But every submariner had them. Cole had more than most. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. You weren't supposed to carry that alone. Cole's eyes glistened. Then why did everyone let me? Marcus didn't have an answer. Because sometimes the ocean wasn't the only thing crushing men. Sometimes their own regrets were heavier. 4 hours later, the USS Arden surfaced. Fresh air flooded through the open hatches. Sailors gulped it down like starving men tasting rain for the first time. Captain Dalton stood on the bridge deck, staring across the sunlit Pacific. Marcus joined him. Dalton didn't look away from the horizon. You saved the ship. Marcus shook his head. We saved it. Dalton nodded once. You think Cole had a death wish? Marcus exhaled slowly. No. I think he had a memory he couldn't escape. Dalton glanced down at the deck. You want my honest opinion? Always. Dalton crossed his arms. Command is going to court-martial him. Maybe dishonorable discharge. Maybe prison. Marcus clenched his jaw. He doesn't deserve prison. He almost killed us. He also didn't understand how to ask for help. Dalton didn't reply. The ocean rolled beneath them, calm, open, endless. Marcus continued softly. Broken men don't need punishment. They need someone who sees them before they drown. Dalton let those words hang in the salty air. Finally he spoke. Maybe you should write that in your report. Marcus shook his head. I'll write the truth. Not the easy explanation. Dalton turned. What truth is that? Marcus looked out over the horizon. That Brandon Cole saved lives 2 years ago on the Rayburn. Dalton frowned. What? I thought. Marcus nodded. He hesitated. Yes. But he also shut the coolant line manually when the purge failed. That act prevented a full meltdown. Dalton stared. You never told anyone that. No one asked. Dalton exhaled. And you think command needs to hear it? Marcus nodded. Before they take a broken man and bury him deeper. Dalton clapped Marcus's shoulder. You're a good man, Hale? Marcus shook his head. No. I just remember what it's like to need mercy. Weeks later, after the ship returned to port and the investigation concluded, Marcus visited Cole in the Naval Psychiatric Ward. Cole sat on a simple cot, reading. He looked healthier, less haunted, more human. Marcus sat across from him. Cole closed the book. You came back. Marcus nodded. Of course. Cole swallowed. Am I going to jail? No. Tears filled Cole's eyes. He covered his face. Marcus continued gently. They're discharging you honorably. Medical leave. Full benefits. Cole sobbed into his hands. How? After everything? Marcus leaned forward. Because someone finally told them the whole story. Not the parts that were easy to blame. Cole slowly lowered his hands. Why would you do that for me? Marcus answered simply. Because underwater, all of us become prisoners of something. Fear. Silence. Guilt. But none of us survive alone. Cole nodded, tears streaming again. Marcus stood to leave. At the door he paused. And Brandon, the next time it gets loud in your head, don't shut down the world. Cole looked up. What do I do instead? Marcus smiled softly. You call someone still willing to listen. Then he walked out, letting the sunlight flood the room. Above the ocean, the world was noisy again. Chaotic. Loud. But Marcus understood something no surface dweller ever would. Strength isn't how deep you can go. It's how you rise again when the darkness presses from every side. And some battles aren't fought with weapons, but with compassion. This story moved you. Maybe share it with someone carrying a weight you can't see.